The first year, at least, probably was more of a matter of survival. And there were a few crises that happened in terms of breathing issues or equipment failures, and which would result in breathing issues, etc. So there was either a crisis going on around me, or I was part of the crisis. It was always kind of scary, either one of those episodes. And I guess one of the things that occurred to me over time was I was the youngest on the ward at that time. There could be as many as 20 male patients and 10 or 12 female patients. Although the women and the men were separated at different sides of the hallway. There was only so many staff, and there were more female staff than there was males. And when they did the patient assignments, I would always get a female to do personal care. So the males would always get or the older people would always get the male. This was a bit unsettling for a while. It took me a while to get used to my very private care being done from women that maybe I had a crush on or something, as I grew up. So there was a lot of mixed emotions going on, and I think one of the difficult things was in terms of reconciling my sexuality, because there was no privacy at all, virtually, in terms of being in a big public ward and no curtains or separation. And I mean, the whole care was set up to take care of your basic daily needs. And your life was scheduled or not scheduled, depending on who was available to help you when, or whether they had adequate staff or whatever. So that was an issue that remained for a while. Schooling was not easy because I was a very good student when I was in school before getting polio. And I probably didn't start attending the classroom in the hospital a lot until after maybe almost a year. And then it would only be for an hour or 2 hours a day. And then in the midst of that, I had suctioning problems for mucus, and I had breathing problems with a respirator. Just posture issues in terms of being comfortable. And intermingled in all that for a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it was physiotherapy. Which was probably, at that time, one of the primary activities of interest, because if you didn't work to get yourself physically well or better, the thought was you weren't going to make the improvement. You needed to move on, to get out, to do other life, have a life. But nobody knew how much return you were going to get physically, or if you were at your apex at that point, after 6 months or a year or whatever. It was highly experimental in terms of outcome. Fortunately, I was able to avoid it, but there was a lot of surgeries that went on with people that they thought, well, we have to help get you ready when you're going to have more movement. And the other night I watched the American Experience on PBS television, and it was about polio. And it brought back some really interesting memories. I mean, there was some of the activities were just pure torture. In hindsight, they were torturous to go through it. But they were intended to be for your own benefit. Like, take bad medicine, it tastes bad, but it's good for you. And I remember having one surgery just to cut the tendons on the back of my knees. Because in the iron lung, it was always more comfortable for me to have my knees bent than it was to have them straight. But the tendons behind the knees shortened up. And they couldn't get them to extend fully with physiotherapy. So they said, well, if you're going to walk, we'll have to do something to help you. So that was part of it. So anyway, it's interesting to reflect on the treatment, and even in just a few years, some of the theories changed, because when I got polio, the theory was you get up and get active, you move around as quickly as you can. And yeah, breathing was a problem, but that was secondary. Get over it. So if one would find themselves in a situation where you might run out of proper oxygen saturation in the airway, inhaling before the physical activity you're supposed to carry out was done. So that was difficult. I mean, you could survive it, but it was kind of like just running. It's running out of air. They said there's not too many things that are worse than not having enough air. But that was a common occurrence, and it wasn't meant to be cruel. It just was the way things were. So these kinds of memories conjure up, and I'm sure that I've got some of them confused.